Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Block Chat. I believe it's the 116th episode this week. And this week we have a special guest with us. There's going to be Peter, our Chief Compliance Officer, taking us through the process so far on the regulatory sandbox that the European Commission has organized for blockchain projects like Blocksquare. Peter, how are you?
Hi, I'm well. I'm somewhere in Spain, full vacation mode. But of course, we are not just resting; we are also working. So we had several discussions also with the people from the sandbox, and this is something that we would like to share with you. Some basic information about the recent developments.
Um, so first of all, where in Spain are you right now?
Oh, I mean, I'm near Valencia, but unfortunately, we are finishing our Spain adventure. So we have been traveling around Spain for 3 weeks, and we are heading back
Okay.
home tomorrow.
All right. So last day, and you're spending the last day doing a blog chat with me. So thanks so much,
Yeah.
and sorry for pushing this
No, no,
onto you.
always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
But we had so many meetings in the past couple of weeks with the team that is helping us prepare our presentation for the regulators. Um, can you take us through a bit the process so far? I mean, how do you see it? Is it satisfactory so far,
Yeah,
what you've seen?
yeah, yeah. So I must say that in general, I was really positively surprised with the whole project. So we are really doing a deep dive into all the regulatory compliance questions, and I was a little bit surprised that there are so many possible questions, and of course we will be addressing all of them. And I would say that the goal or our main goal why we decided to participate in that program is to somehow pressure test how fractional on-chain real estate revenue rights can work within the applicable EU regulations. So we are now applying our business model to all possible legal laws in United States, meaning crypto laws, MiCA, laws covering financial instruments, laws covering payment services, and so on. So the outcome will be a very comprehensive presentation with specific topics that will be then discussed together with the regulators.
And I mean, I obviously participated in all those discussions as well. And I must say, I mean, uh, we were really going in a deep dive, right? And what surprised me from, getting feedback from the team helping us prepare everything, um, is that they really care. So it's not just they're doing their job, of course, but at the same time, they're also kind of pushing certain questions to us, asking the right questions so that we can prepare the answers. And on the other end, what they've been doing so far is lining up regulators, talking with the regulators, inviting them to the conversation with us. The conversation, I believe, is going to be beginning of September, and then there's going to be another one towards the second part of September. Um, do you remember how many regulators have already applied to this?
Yeah. So maybe just one step back. So what's the whole process here? So what we are doing
Okay.
now, or what we have been doing in last, I would say 2-3 months, or 3 months or more even,
Hmm.
so we were together with these lawyers drafting the presentation with all the important legal questions. So we separated those questions into three topics. The first topic is about the legal qualification of the token, of the BSPT token. The second one is the qualification of legal services that Blocksquare is serving, and the third one is the applicability of payment services regulation. So within within all those three topics, there are some questions, very detailed questions, and these questions will be then discussed with the regulators, with a set of regulators, into so-called dialogues, as you already mentioned. The first dialogue will be on the 2nd of September, and what was also surprising for me is that the regulators are so interested in our business model, in our legal structure for the tokenization process. So, and I believe that in the first stage, 12 regulators applied, and now the last status is more than 15. So, and these are the regulators from Netherlands, from Czech Republic, also from Slovenia, from Germany, Luxembourg, practically everywhere. These are central banks, agencies for securities, and so on. So I would say that it was a positive surprise, not only from the efforts that the team related directly to this sandbox is giving into the project, but also the response from the regulators was also very positive and very surprising.
Most definitely. I mean, it would not matter us working, preparing all those documents, set of questions, answers, and so forth, presentations, if there's nobody listening on the other end, and challenging basically what our stance is. We're going into those discussions with a strong legal background. We've invested heavily throughout 2024 into really kind of researching in depth our model and backing it with legal opinions. And we can confidently go into those discussions. Of course, it's going to be interesting to see how regulators see the whole process, right? The whole tokenization process that we kind of provide, and how they are gonna challenge us with the questions that they will have. And I hope that those conversations will kind of really bring additional clarity, not only to Blocksquare, but as well to the marketplace. Marketplaces kind of running on Blocksquare, and the property owners in the end, who are tokenizing real estate with us. By the way, those following us, we've just crossed the milestone of bringing 200 million worth of real estate assets on our infrastructure. It seems like a big number. For some might say it's a tiny number, because people, when it comes to real estate, they're always talking about trillions. But we're doing it step by step. And the last 100 million was brought on the infrastructure mainly through marketplaces, not directly by Blocksquare, but through marketplaces. And I think that's kind of already showing that the business model that we put together is going in the right direction. Now, with the sandbox, I believe that can really open up things for Blocksquare even further, because then you can really go to any potential, company and say, look, this is what you need to do. This is the exact process. We have confirmations from various regulators that they agree with it. And on the other end, if regulators can find a partner that they can easily work with when it comes to real estate tokenization, and if Blocksquare becomes this preferred partner in terms of the EU, that makes things much easier for the regulator, right? How do you see, Peter? You've been, of course, talking with regulators in the past. How do you see the approach of regulators towards innovative solutions? Have you seen a
Yeah,
lot of pushbacks usually, or are they accepting it, or are they proactively trying to find solutions? What's your take?
yeah. So my opinion would be that sometimes the regulators are too afraid to start something new. So usually, at least when you're talking with the regulators from small countries such as Slovenia, for example, they are always waiting what will the bigger regulators say, or the regulators from the bigger countries say. So usually, at least in Slovenia, the regulators are waiting for the for opinion from Germany, from France, or from European Union. And usually, you don't want that as a pioneer in the market. So you want to be fast, and you want to break things. So what will help definitely with all the blockchain projects in Europe is now this MiCA regulation. So of course now we have finally this unified European Union regulation, but this is not I would say 100% solution for Blocksquare, because the tokenization process we have at Blocksquare is not that simple. So it's not that only MiCA regulation applies. So we are combining on-chain and off-chain instruments, and of course that means that there is a wider range of applicable regulations. So we also need to take the account not only crypto regulation, but also regulation covering financial instruments, covering payment services, anti-money laundering, and so on. And I would say that the whole concept of sandbox is very beneficial for us. Why? Because within the sandbox, you can freely talk with the regulators. You cannot do anything wrong, so there will be no regulatory penalties. This is a place where you can open a discussion with a specific regulator or with a bunch of them about the topics and what's the outcome of this, or what at least what we are expecting to be the outcome of this sandbox that we are participating in, that we will have at the end one I would say best possible model, one best practice model, which will be I would say applicable throughout the European Union, and which would be somehow approved by all the regulators. And of course that will give us that will put us in a very good position on the market, because we will finally have one business model which will be approved by the competent authorities, which would mean, of course, that we can scale the business much faster that used to be possible in the past.
So essentially, yeah, I remember. I mean, what you say is perfectly true. When we first tokenized the first property back in 2018, and we went to the Slovenian regulator, there was no MiCA at the time. There was basically nothing really, not even a lot of understanding of what blockchain is and tokenization, right? And the two of us went there, if you remember, and we were asking. And we just received very informal opinions or individual opinions, but nothing substantial or official from the regulator, that we could utilize when talking to people in the market. But one thing I remember was really true, and if you keep the size, the value small, nobody's going to care. So the only thing that mattered at the time is for us to prove that it's possible. And that was, I think, already a kind of a green light for us to be able to at least do an MVP out of it with a small parking space. And at the same time have an understanding that the regulator is not going to jump on us right away, but kind of leave us in peace, because we are trying to innovate. And the problem becomes when you're then trying to scale up, right? At that moment, you need clarity, you need certainty. And I hope the sandbox is going to give that certainty to us, and that boosts the confidence of a team to push forward. And maybe there's going to be a requirement to make some adaptations in some parts of our business model, of how things work. Maybe not. Maybe we're already doing everything just as we should. But definitely there's you gain some clarity through that process, and that's what I hope for. Now,
Yeah,
if we
Dennis, if I may interrupt
yeah
here you.
yeah yeah
Yeah, I had a really pleasant memories on that first meeting with the regulator. So we were there before our kickoff project with the tokenization, a parking lot in Ljubljana, and the key message there was really simple. You can proceed with the tokenization, but don't screw up, don't screw it. So don't screw
yes
your investors. So that was the key message, and of course we proceeded. But as you also said, so this gives you a comfort to do your MVP, but this doesn't give you a comfort to scale your business, because every serious partner it will approach you somewhere in the future, will ask you, okay, do you have a 100% legally compliant solution? And of course, based on that statement from the regulator, that's not a 100% legally compliant solution, because you cannot rely on some informal message from the regulator. But this is changing. So this, I think, substantially changed with the legal opinions we got from very reputable legal office, and this will definitely even more substantially change with after we finish with this sandbox.
yeah I think that confidence is one part, but as you mentioned, clients in the end, or users, from whatever side you look at real estate tokenization, users in the end just want to have certainty, and it's either 100% or nothing, and so you need to have something that you can back and say, yes, this is 100% compliant from all angles. And if you go and talk to your regulator in the country where you're operating from, they know Blocksquare. I think that's also one thing that is
Or Dennis,
very
they can ask
important.
regulators. They can ask regulators, because regulators talk with each other. So I know that when I was talking with the Slovenian central bank a few weeks ago, and I told them, look, you have a case study in Lithuania,
Mhm.
and they told me, okay, we will reply back to you in a few weeks. In the meantime, we will talk with the Lithuanian regulator. So this is also important. So yes, we have now these 15 plus regulators in within our dialogue, but that would have a even more positive effect, because now every other regulator will have 15 of partners to talk with about our business model. So this it's a really spillover effect with this sandbox.
Definitely, and I want to see what happens. After these dialogues are done, if there's going to be a continuation throughout the sandbox as an instrument or a platform, let's say, if regulators want to do even follow-up calls from there, to go maybe more in depth, maybe one-on-one meetings. What's going to happen afterwards? Because I see this just as a start, as a starting point, and then from there on we will definitely gain more attention from the regulators we already talked with, but as well regulators that maybe have not participated, but are just as well interested in the use case as the sandbox addresses various projects. So
Yeah,
um,
you
I,
look like everywhere in business. I think it's very important to have somebody to talk with. So now after this dialogue, we will know who are the people working for specific regulator who are interested in our business model, and who will do a deep dive together with us. And I think that the next stage for us is to if of course if we will need the regulators from these specific EU countries, then we will directly be able to approach them, because they will already know us. And for all the other regulators, we will have this reference point. So we will be able to tell them, okay, so we would like to do a tokenization project in your country, and this is our business model, and these are our referral contacts within our the other regulators. So I think it will be much easier to establish any new dialogue with any regulator from each of the European Union countries after this sandbox.
For sure. I think it's going in the right direction. I think we've entered in the third cohort of the sandbox, which is the last one, by the way, as far as I'm aware. Um, which means a couple of things. We're more mature. We have we're more mature and we can offer more from our end. The team running the sandbox has experience from previous two cohorts, and with that experience, they know exactly how to help us prepare the best way possible. And regulators have an experience talking with this blockchain project. So they've done research throughout the previous cohorts and have a much clearer understanding of everything. And there's a fourth part. There's Mika this year, which was there somewhere, but it was not yet finalized. Now we have something concrete that regulators have in front of them, and so I think it's the perfect timing. The same moment, RWA is growing as a market and is gaining traction. Also on the real estate side, so it's not just treasury bills and bonds, etc., and stable coins being tokenized, but there's other assets, and real estate is in at the front end of every discussion when it comes to RWA, but then in the end, there's not many doing it. There's people securitizing funds that own portfolios of real estate, yes, but that's not real estate tokenization. That is fund tokenization. That is a totally different thing from what we are offering on the market, which is the ability to tokenize individual assets, individual properties, and use the land registry to back those tokens. Um, and I think that's kind of a very innovative new thing that regulators might not have found in when they're talking about tokenizations with other projects. And interestingly enough, in the last meeting, I believe it was mentioned as well that there's going to be some notary associations,
Mhm.
I think from the Netherlands and Austria, and I think a European-wide notary association joining those meetings. How do you see those conversations? Because usually regulators come from the securities and exchange commissions of various countries, and they're focused more on the securitization side, right? But
Mhm.
here, in this discussion, we're also going to have that element of notaries joining in.
Yeah, look, my general opinion would be now crypto is definitely already mainstream. So with Mika, with what's going on in the United States, the package of laws was adopted, I think this week or previous week. So crypto is 100% here, and it's already mainstream. So that will also happen with the tokenization. So we can now read about all the possible real world assets that will be tokenized, and of course what now will happen, what's already happening, is the learning process. So now the industry stakeholders are learning, the regulators are learning, the notaries are learning, and I see this dialogue within the sandbox as a learning process. So all the stakeholders that are somehow interested and that they understand that the tokenization is the future of business. I think they will want to learn what's going on, and the existing trends and the future trends. And I see, and I'm happy to see that also the notaries, which are in old school business, they had same business for 100 years, and now they will also need to learn something new. And this will be an opportunity for them to get some new knowledge about the future technology advancements, and how the new regulatory framework will apply to these new tech advancements.
It's going to be interesting to see how regulations from Europe and the US kind of combine or work jointly, right? Because we're working, I mean, we're living in a global world, right? But the opinions and decisions are made locally in different jurisdictions. So that's becoming more and more complex as you add regulation and navigating those areas. It just adds to the complexity of everything, right? Now, on one side, you might have a tokenization model that within Europe is outputting crypto assets. and on the other, but transferring economic value from real estate. On the other side of the world, that same token is a security by law because it triggers the Howey test. Um, because how legal systems work in two different environments, it then regulates the same thing in two different ways. And that's really kind of then becoming then interesting to see how the regulator in the US will be addressing this type of tokenization. The work, I think, what happening with Vera Group, one of our partners, they're based out of the US, and their goal is to bring $1 billion worth of real estate assets that they have in either in their portfolio or in their pipeline on chain. And there's legal work that we're doing with them there, and the lawyers in the US that we work with, that are going to again create a lot of knowledge for us, for Vera Group. Once these things are solved, are clear, do you see the US as potentially being a big part of Blocksquare's market?
Yeah, we are living in really interesting times. So not only within the crypto industry, but also within the geopolitical, let's say, questions. So, and also those questions or the situation applies to crypto. So not what we are witnessing now in the United States is the simplification, deregulation of everything what is related to crypto. On the other side, in Europe, we just got MiCA, which is quite strict, regulating different crypto assets and different crypto services. But at the end of the day, I believe that something similar will happen as it did with GDPR. So I don't know, 10 years ago, when Europe adopted this unified regulation covering protection of personal data, everybody was saying that this will kill all the business and so on. I partly agree with that, but what happened at the end? Also, some other countries copy pasted some instruments from the GDPR into their own national regulation. Something similar happened, for example, with California, so as a state in the United States. So MiCA being so comprehensive and so detailed regulation, I think this is positive for the business in general, because now we know within which framework we need to we can move in, and I'm not sure what will happen in 10 years time horizon, but there will be some kind of crypto regulation, and I think it will be something close to MiCA. But we will never get unified world crypto regulation. So there will be always questions: what you need to do in Europe and what you need to do in the United States. But if we will be able to cover, at least the biggest jurisdictions, let's say United States, Europe, then some big Asian countries, then we will have really scalable a solution, because with easy or with some minor modifications of our business model, our model will be practical, applicable everywhere. So our goal or our agenda is now to cover big jurisdictions. Once we will know that our solution is fully legally compliant, then we will move to smaller jurisdictions. And I would say, as you mentioned, with Vera Capital, United States is our next step, and I'm really looking forward to finalize the legal infrastructure with them, because then we will be able to have next block chat about us moving to United States.
I think we've perfectly covered, like, I hope we've covered well what has been happening in terms of the EU regulatory sandbox that we are participating in. And in the discussion of RWA regulation and so forth, I've seen in the last month a lot of discussion about stablecoins. I think there's a big focus on stablecoins, and there's various takes on why this is happening, what is the reason behind, because in Europe we have a very strict regulation when it comes to stablecoins, right? And not many are really compliant. Currently, I think only Circle is actually of the big ones is actually MiCA compliant, and maybe there's so USDC basically, and the Euro C, which has a very small kind of market cap, is currently insignificant. But probably MiCA regulation has another agenda, not just regulating stablecoins, but as well pushing more European stablecoins to the market, because otherwise the stablecoin market will be operated mainly outside of Europe, as currently it is. And there's a question where this liquidity will be concentrated. Many are saying that MiCA is going to kill the stablecoin market in Europe. Um, do you do you agree with that statement, or not?
No, no, not at all, not at all. So I know that Societe Generale, one of the biggest French banks and one of the biggest European Union banks, already issued their stablecoin. So I think that if you're not afraid of regulation, then I don't know what you would be afraid of MiCA. So for example, with regards to the stable coins, MiCA has really strict provisions about the capital reserves. So if once you get money from the investors, what you do with that money. So what kind of treasury you can do with that money. And it's really strict about the possible investment. So you need to invest in AAA bonds and other really qualitative financial and very liquid instruments. So if Tether wouldn't have problem with that, I believe that it's easy peasy for Tether to get a MiCA license in Europe. But of course, if you're doing some kind of magic with these funds from your users, and you are not fully transparent about it, then you have problems with MiCA. So I would say that for all the crypto service providers, either issuers, exchangers, or whatever, if they are not afraid of regulation, they will not be afraid of MiCA, and they will come to Europe. And I think this is a good opportunity for them, because not every service provider will decide to do that.
Tether is a good example. It's a company that's made 6 billion in profits last year, and I believe that kind of company can not only afford but should establish a MiCA compliant stablecoin. It can be a side product, but why not? There's no reason why there wouldn't be a MiCA compliant stablecoin coming from Tether. And they've lost that war against Circle, or that battle, let's say. Now, let's see how the stablecoin Genius Act in the US is going to affect the Tether. Um, there's always this talk since basically the first days of Tether, and then later on. Um, Circle always went into the fully compliant solution, and that was the strong point there. While Tether was always avoiding audits and everything, but growing its influence in the crypto market in terms of the tool for market makers to provide liquidity and on the markets. Um, it's a ticking bomb, perhaps, or perhaps is the most brilliant product out there. We don't know. But in any case, the verdict, or is out or not yet out, but there's going to be a verdict in due time, because regulators are pushing, um, and um, and and I think it's going to be hard to avoid. I just hope, because Tether will have a huge influence on the crypto markets in general, if it fails. And I hope it doesn't because of that, because that's going to be a new FTX, but 100 times bigger, if that happens. Um, so I believe it should be much easier for Tether, for instance, to become fully compliant than to avoid. It should be easier at this point in time where they have a big share of the market, to just basically start, putting the dots on their I's and crossing their T's, or how they say, and basically just go in a fully regulated mode, um, even at the expense of maybe losing some profits. Why not, right? Um, One comparison between the US and the European banking system, there were discussions on LinkedIn this past week. People saying, or crypto influencers saying, well, Europe is going to lose the stablecoin market. USDT will just, is the number one on the market, etc. And and talking about crippled or not unsafe or European banks. When it comes to stress testing banks, Europe has the toughest regime in terms of regulation. European banks are, in my view, the ones that have very tough stress tests done on a regular basis. A friend of ours, he's working for the European Bank doing those stress tests. And I know that when we talked, he compared what the US is doing in terms of stress testing, and the US is nowhere near the banking system of Europe in terms of making things safe for consumers in the end. Do you believe a similar approach is also seen now with the regulations or stablecoins in Europe and in the US? That the US will have much lighter regulation when it comes to stablecoins and what companies can do with the holdings that are backing those stablecoins.
Um, yeah, so I think that's a legacy from the last financial crisis that started after the Lehman Brothers fall in 2008. So the legacy for European Union banks was that that new regulation prescribed these very strict capital obligations, capital requirements for all the banks, especially for the systemically important banks. And this is here to stay. So nothing changed in Europe, so that these required levels of capital would decrease. And of course, in United States, there is lobbying happening all the time, because the problem from the bank perspective or from the shareholders perspective is that this capital costs a lot. And of course, during these years, they were lowering these capital requirements, and this is still ongoing process. And I think with Trump in the White House, this process will accelerate, and also the process for their regulation in other areas will accelerate. But my belief is that this is the first step towards the next big financial crisis. So you don't want to substantially decrease all the legal requirements for financial institutions, because of course they're running for the profits, and they don't care what will happen in 10 years, and they don't care too much about the protection of the retail and other customers. So and these are two completely different approaches between United States and Europe. And at the end of the day, I believe it's more safer to be a customer of the European Union bank than being a customer of the United States banks.
And with that, let's wrap up this blog chat. Thank you, Peter, so much for taking the time during your vacation, last day in
Not a
Spain.
problem. Yeah.
I'm tuning in from Croatia myself as well. But as you see, it's never off time for us. We're always kind of moving things forward, pushing the boundaries, working towards bringing Blocksquare to the masses, basically, so that every real estate company or real estate owner or individual who wants to access real estate as an investment can utilize this and benefit what we're building today, so that it's going to be there in the near future and for a long time after that. So, any last words, Peter, you want to say to our community?
No, let's wait for the outcome of this sandbox, and let's have another block chat after our first dialogue meeting in early September.
Perfect. Well, in that case, thank you, everyone. Have a good time. Thank you for watching us. And I hope the information that Peter and I have shared today has been interesting to listen to. Follow us on the channels that you prefer. We're active on Twitter, Telegram. We have a Discord server where you can, log in, talk with our community and the team, and follow us on all the social media channels out there. Lots to come, and stay tuned. Thank you so much. Cheers.